Hey, this is Doug Jones from the Hellboy movies and the Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer and Pan's Labyrinth and Hocus Pocus. But right now, you are listening to The Movie Raid.
It's time for the movie raid, and tonight's victim is actor Doug Jones that played in many films like Hellboy and including Hocus Pocus. What's up?
Hey, wow. You dug deep for the Hocus Pocus one. That's 1993, yeah.
Hocus Pocus, in case you're wondering who he was a zombie.
I was Billy the dead guy, Billy Butcherson. I had so much fun with that.
The one that gets he was the guy that got poisoned by one of the witches. If you can guess which one, you just might get a treat.
I can tell you now. Yeah, it's Bette Midler. Yeah, she was wicked to me, and she poisoned me, sewed my mouth shut, and buried me. And then I came back 300 years later to help the kids battle her off. And what a fun little classic Halloween film that's become over the years.
That's always been a fun film. You never get tired of that film, really. So, what do you have going on right now?
Well, right now, the next thing coming out for me is July 27th. That'll be The Watch with Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn, Jonah Hill, and myself playing the alien that is invading their neighborhood.
Is it starting out as an independent, or is this pretty much going full worldwide?
Oh no, this is a huge film. 20th Century Fox produced it, distributing it. It'll be opening nationwide on the 27th of July, and with big stars like that in it, it should have a pretty good opening weekend. We're guessing, and Vince Vaughn, Jonah Hill, and Ben Stiller, and the fourth character, Richard Iowata. He's from the IT crowd. Funny guy with nerdy glasses. The four of them have formed a neighborhood crime watch in their neighborhood, and there's not a whole bunch to do. There's not much crime, so they just kind of like having a boys' club. So they end up in Vince Vaughn's garage a lot, playing pool, listening to music, drinking beer, telling fart jokes, the whole thing, until the alien invasion starts happening and weird things start happening in the neighborhood, and they find themselves way in over their heads, and nobody believes them about what's going on, so the local cops aren't even helping. And so they take it upon themselves to save the world from the destruction that is about to befall it. So I'm the lead alien guy, and I bring all my minions with me, so you'll see all that happening, and it's very fun. It's a very funny movie. With those four guys especially, it's a funny script anyway, but once they get to bantering back and forth, and the scene takes a whole new form in life when they go off the page and start improving and vamping on their own, it was hilarious to work on. And so those guys bring the funny, and I bring the scary. I'm like the sci-fi part of the movie. So it's kind of like a comedy sci-fi in the same vein that Ghostbusters was.
Is this kind of a little bit of a risk for you? I mean, there are a lot of sci-fi films out there, but some of them do very well, and some of them just go completely bombed. Yeah.
Right. It all depends. Yeah. I don't feel risky at all. No. When it's a comedy, all bets are off. I feel that if we're doing something just for the funny, then liberties can be taken, and fans are more forgiving if it's done for funny. Yeah, but if you're making a Prometheus or something like that, you've got to be spot on, and you got to be very dedicated to your fan base there.
Yeah, considering how many characters you played as over the years.
Right.
You definitely got to get it on. But you're also in an upcoming horror film, John Dies at the End.
Yes, what a fun one that is. Directed by, and the screenplay was written by Don Coscarelli and directed by Don Coscarelli. He took this a book called John Dies at the End and adapted it for film. It's quirky, funny, disturbingly dark. It's been playing very well at Sundance Film Festival, the South by Southwest Film Festival, packed houses, and the reviews have come in, and the reviewers keep saying things like, "I'm not sure I understood it all, but I loved it." So it's one of those. It's a quirky film with a whole setup. There's two dimensions going on at the same time, and there's two worlds happening at the same time. And these two kids in our world here, they're taking a drug called soy sauce. It's like a recreational off the street drug. And when they take this soy sauce, they start hallucinating. But it turns out that the soy sauce chooses who it will reveal the other dimension to in real life, basically. So somehow these two kids are seeing things and seeing what's happening in this other dimension that's actually going on. And watching these kids, and I visit them, and I manifest myself in the back seat of their car, and that's the first time you see me in the movie, and I kind of help explain what's happening and that the world's in great peril, and they're going to need to save it because they're the ones who are in the know now, and they're the ones who can cross over and fix things in our dimension to fix things in their dimension. So that is, if you're confused now, just wait till you see the movie. You know what I'm saying? It's only going to get worse. But it's great tongue-in-cheek humor, and Paul Giamatti's in it with me, and Clancy Brown. Some great iconic actors, and Angus Scrimm from Phantasm, and the two lead kids are a couple of newcomers, Rob Mays, and the lead is actually Chase Williamson, and he's just fantastic. These kids are great.
Would you say this might be a little bit of a breath of fresh air as far as what's going on in the industry right now? Like, for this film, you think it's actually going to kind of pop out?
I do think so, especially because of Don Coscarelli's thumbprint on the movie. Since he wrote and directed it, he's the same guy that gave you the Phantasm movies and Bubba Hotep, which was a kind of a cult classic. So he definitely has his own quirky, funny spin on things, much like a Joss Whedon would, So I think it's definitely going to be a standout.
Okay, when's this one coming out? Is this going basically direct to DVD, or is it just being streamed out online?
It's still playing the film festival circuit. It just had a packed out, sold out house in Seattle, so I think once we get distribution, it's probably going to stop the film festivals. And I was told maybe still like in the fall this year. Theatrical run? I don't know. I would hope so, but it all depends on how much buzz it gets. These when a line forms around the building at the film festivals to see it, that kind of bodes well that it might actually have a chance at a theatrical run, even if it's limited, before the DVD comes out, which I would hope for.
Yeah, with these type films, especially independent ones, do you think it's actually starting to grow better compared now than before?
Indie films?
Yeah.
I sure do. There's a lot more of them, that's for dang sure. Especially, I think, was when the changeover happened from you don't have to shoot on film anymore. And film was so expensive, that 35mm stock was developing it and transferring things. Now you can shoot on digital and with a film quality, so it's accessible to everyone now at any budget level to make a slick-looking film if you write it a good script. And if you get good actors and if you direct a good film and edit it together properly, you can have a slick look.
Yeah.
So I think the world of indie film has come leaps and bounds in the last few years.
Yeah, it's always been there, but the thing is, it's up and downs as far as popularity. It's always that whole it's got to be that one film that stands out than all the other ones. It's like, oh, okay, we'll pick that up. But a lot of independent films, they go up and then they go back down, off and on every time.
Right. It all depends. Yeah, you never know where the magic's going to be, what an audience is really going to respond to. But for me, when I pick a project to do an indie film, if it's a story that I want to help tell that amuses me or entertains me or puts me on a thrill ride of some sort, or makes me feel something, that's step number one. Step number two for me is the character. How does that character play in this story that I want to help tell? Do I have great dialogue, great relationships? Do I have an emotional arc to travel through, a journey of my own? That's all enticing to me. And then number three is the director. Whose hands am I going to be in, and who's going to be cutting this together, and who's the actual storyteller? And that's usually the director of the film. So if all three of those things are in place, then that's what will interest me to be in a movie. And I don't want to boast or anything, but I've been semi-okay about picking my projects, I think. So hopefully this will be another winner.
Oh yeah, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with B-side movies either. Those are really cool too.
Right, if you can laugh your way through some cheesy horror, that's great fun for the whole family, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's just absolutely and believe it or not, of course, a lot of B-side movies that just were specifically B-side end up being cult classics later on in the future.
Right, exactly. With the advent of things like Netflix and Hulu, and there's iTunes. There's so many different places to watch movies now, so that's why the business is. Yeah,
speaking of which, since everything's gone to digital, do you think it's actually killing the industry, or do you actually think it's really helping the industry?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's funny because box office receipts are still coming in, so I think the big theater experience won't go away. You can't match that. When you go into that smell of the popcorn and the big surround sound and the huge screens. And,
certainly.
Especially with 3D now too. So many films are coming out in 3D. I don't think the theater experience is going to go away anytime soon.
Oh, never. But I mean, everything's on digital. You can just download it. You can stream it. But rather than going to the theater and just watching it on the big screen, whichever your pleasure is. But
right. Well, I think we people have the theater experience on the big screen, love it, and then they want to get it on the downloadable version too. They want it in the palm of their hand on their iPhone or wherever, and that's great. It only helps the whole industry, I think.
Sometimes, but the thing is, there's always that piracy as well, and you really can't control that, regardless. No matter what technology come out, no matter the biggest spam blocker in the world can't help it, no matter what.
Yeah.
But it's also taken away from the artist. It would take away from you if your film right now is being streamed or downloaded right now for free, and someone can just pass out DVDs for free.
Right. Well, that's all copyrighted material. It's like so there's laws in place, but I know people can get around that, and of course I'm not in favor of downloadable piracy and all that, but yeah, if you do it the right way, and it's still to download a movie it can be cheaper than buying a DVD from your store. So it's still there are many cheaper options. You don't I don't know. There's ways to do it the right way,
basically,
and everyone still makes a profit, and everyone's still happy about it, I think.
You just pretty much sit on the fence and just watch what happens, right?
Yeah, I'm not.
You're not really for it. You're not against it. You're just sitting there, just watching. It's like, well, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Exactly.
But it's always going to be a problem. It's a huge thing. Everything's so digital. Everything we got all this technology that can help, but it can also ruin the experience as far as film goes. Now, of course, that goes right back to CGI. It's a great tool, but then you see it splashed all over the film. It makes it that whole fake effect.
Right.
And it's like, well, it's not really as interesting as it was before, because especially when someone's cutting someone's limbs off, or even driving a background somewhere. It's like the background looks so fake.
Yeah.
Rather than going to on a real location and then filming it.
Right. I think that whole discussion that's a whole other discussion, I think. But I think CG, when it's used properly, can marry itself into the filmmaking world really, really usefully. I think it takes a village. I like visual. I love visual computer effects. I also love practical effects that are done on set and that they film. And that's where I come in. Where most of the characters that I play, all the creatures that I played, have been makeups and costumes that I've worn on film, as opposed to wearing dots and then they draw it in later. I've never done that before. So I really appreciate the artistry that goes into making an actor look like a creature and filming him. And then the challenge is mine to make that costume or that makeup come to life as that creature. That's a whole art form that I don't think will be gone anytime soon either, because 100% CG characters, the audiences can spot them still. And then if it doesn't look real enough, or they can't connect to the eyes enough, or they can't feel the humanity of that character enough, they're not going to connect with them as much. So
yeah, some companies, they get a little too frustrated with that portion, and then so basically just say fuck it, we're gonna go with CGI, because they don't want to mess with the real element effect, like dressing up in an actual costume and getting all the makeup on there. Of course, it takes a lot of time putting all that on, but it'll eventually pay off.
It does. I believe you're right. So I'm an advocate of, but then there's some characters like the Silver Surfer that I played, for instance.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four sequel, where I did wear a costume and a makeup every day. That I looked like the Silver Surfer, but they did Weta Digital, one of the best companies in the world for digital. They brought in enhancements for the Silver Surfer. They gave me a coating that made me look really otherworldly and helped me fly around the skies, doing stunts that I couldn't do on my own. And that really was a nice marriage of visual and practical effects together. That's a great example of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just something like that. Have you ever thought of doing some stunts yourself? I mean, you seem you fit the bill.
When it comes to stunts, I don't want to. There are too many good stunt people in this world that are really amazing at what they do that I would never want to call myself a stunt man or say, yeah, I can do that, when they're really trained for that. And I like to think of myself as an actor, and I do actually have a tall, skinny stunt double that has done 4 movies with me now, and he's amazing. His name is Dorian Kinji. In fact, he was my stunt double for The Watch, coming out July 27th. So you'll and the alien characters that we played in the Watch, very agile, very athletic, very violent, very fighty. himself. So again, it takes a village to make these characters happen, and so I defer to the bigger stunts to the people who know what they're doing.
Yeah, well, it's stuntmen. It doesn't seem that they're as appreciated as they should be because they're breaking their balls for this actor, and because the actor that actor may get paid a lot of money not to do it,
right.
or they don't want to risk either killing or breaking a bone of their star role.
Well, and the thing is too, I mean, a big studio movie has a ton of they have millions and millions of dollars at stake. So if their main star gets hurt in the middle of production, that movie has to stop production, and they can't afford to do that. So
they can't afford it at all.
So insurance issues would come up. So they're not going to let these major movie stars that say, "Yeah, I do all my own stunts." Not always. There's certain things that the studio would never let them do because that's too much of a risk. So yes, but they let us play to a point, and then if any kind of danger could happen where we could break in half and ruin the movie, they would never let us do that.
No. Well, speaking of the companies, do you actually prefer the smaller kind, or would you actually rather work with the major one?
No, that's a good question. I've done both. I do a lot of both. And the difference is that a big studio production, like a 20th Century Fox or Disney or Paramount, Universal, the big studios, what they have to offer is oodles of money that the indie films don't have, right?
Yeah.
With that money comes the luxuries of all the behind the scenes luxuries, like big trailers and big menus and big lavish snack tables and lunches and personal assistants and the whole thing, and a longer shooting schedule. They don't have to shoot as fast, and they can with a longer shooting schedule you have the luxury of getting a scene right before you move on to the next one. Whereas in an indie budget, they're scraping every dollar they have together to make this movie, and so they have to do every day costs a lot of money, so they do as few days as they can. So you usually do a shorter schedule with a lot more scenes shot per day, and you kind of leave a scene maybe not sure you got it all, but let's hope. That's the drawback. But the plus side of indie filmmaking, though, is that the freedom that the filmmaker has without a studio head over him saying, here's what we need for demographics, and here's your product placements, and here's your blah, 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 blah. Here's our target audience, blah, blah, blah. They don't have to worry about any of that. An indie filmmaker can make the story that he's written, and he can direct what he wants artistically and keeping it all intact. If they make a good film, and distributors show up at film festivals looking for that next thing, and the big studios love finding a small indie film that didn't cost much to make that they can buy from a film festival that they didn't have to put any upfront production money into, right? The film's already made. All they have to do is buy it for a low price and then distribute it and advertise the poop out of it, and hopefully they'll make their millions back that way. So, that's a good gig for them. The studio films with the bigger budgets, the drawback, the plus side is the money they have and what that affords us. And the drawback would be the layers of decision makers. You've got producers on all kinds of levels, and everyone's got an opinion, and everyone's and they're all terrified of it's all about money, and how who are we going to be offending, and how do we make this as formulaic and appeasing to the masses as possible.
Yeah, and the sad thing is like you can easily be replaced as far as certain major companies. You can just easily be replaced because if they disagree with you, whatever that you're arguing about or debating about, it's like, you know what, we'll just ask someone else to write this, or we'll just ask someone else to direct this or act this. Thanks for coming.
Can do, yeah.
Do you think future superhero films between now and the future, you think it's actually going to be used more of a product rather than something someone can actually enjoy the experience?
Well, I don't know. I think I really have been enjoying the Marvel movies of late. Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, and the Avengers this summer has been. I actually liked it a lot. It was commercially successful. Of course, they're going to sell a lot of toys off of that, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile, though, it was written and directed by Joss Whedon, who is the creator of the Buffy vampire series and Firefly, Serenity, and Dr. Horrible sing-along. Well, he's got a lot of street cred with the geeks.
Yeah.
So I think that's a nice mix of big budget, huge Marvel production mixed with the right storyteller to get it to the fans that will appreciate it. So I don't think we're going to lose the integrity of comic books with the more films that are made if we keep getting people involved
It could just easily be used as a product. It's like, okay, here's this actor and here's this actor, and they're like a big superstar film.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay, and then it becomes less appealing.
Right. Well, and but I understand if they're spending millions and millions of dollars to make the movie, they have to make that money back. And one way to ensure you make money back is to put a big star in the lead role.
Yeah.
You kind of do have to do that. I understand why, but I think if you can mix that marketing sense with art, as long as the two can coincide together, then we'll still have a movie that'll appease everybody.
Oh yeah, I mean, regardless, so far it seems like they're doing pretty well with these superhero films.
Yeah.
It's good to see that we see our favorite heroes actually in action rather than on a piece of paper.
Yeah, well, I was actually in Batman Returns, the second one.
Yeah, you played as one of the clowns, I believe.
I was the thin clown. I was one of Danny DeVito's sidekicks when he played the Penguin, and he hung out with the Red Triangle Circus Gang, and I was one of his clown guys.
Weren't you one? Oh God, which one were you though? Weren't you?
There were several clowns. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was one like where Penguin is making a speech outside, or were you like basically in the sewers?
I was in the sewers a lot. Yeah, right. When he came back from making his speech for the mayor race, he flopped, and the PA system was running a recording of something he'd said previously that was all, "I'm going to take over Gotham City, and like these people can." And by the time people were booing him, and he came back down to the sewer, and when he got off of his little duck boat, I was the first one who met him, and I said, "Great speech, Oswald."
Oh, okay. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was also the one where when we went into Gotham City, a few of us circus gang people, and we found the Batmobile parked, and we rewired it so that it would go haywire on Batman. I was the leader of that little mission, and I put the homing device in the car that we could track him. So.
Yes.
Yeah, I was in about 6 different scenes throughout the movie. Had a great time on that. It worked for 3 months, and that was with Michael Keaton and Tim Burton directing. Oh, he's so great.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah, wasn't it though?
Of course, now Batman's completely upgraded with instead of felt, he got some real armor going on.
Yeah, no, it's a different look with Christopher Nolan directing it now, and a little darker and a little. It doesn't have as much goofy comic bookiness to it. It has more dark comic book to it, I think. Which is great though. I think the old Batman series is great. There's an audience for all of it. So.
Yeah, it's definitely more superhero-like. It's got that little mystery behind Batman now because his suit's more upgraded now. It actually looks really good.
I think you're right.
But you said you also got a book too. Is that?
It's crazy. Yeah, I've got a coffee table photo book. I started as a mime many years ago. Those guys that don't talk and wear a white face and white gloves and a black beret, and they follow you around the park and make you nauseous. Well, I started as a mime back in college, and so that kind of, but the mime art sort of helped lay the groundwork for the kind of characters I play now. I do a lot of physicality and a lot of creatures that have to move a certain way, and the mime training really helped my body wake up to the fact that dialogue is not just verbal; it's also from head to toe. It's very physical. So this book. A publishing company in Chicago, Medallion Press, they heard that I started as a mime and wanted to retouch my roots, take me back there to being a mime, and make this silly book. So it's all pictures, the coffee table photo book. All these photos in there depict, silly sayings like, "A mime is a terrible thing to waste," or "A meeting of the mimes," or "Get your mime out of the gutter," or "Once upon a mime," or "I've got a lot of my mime."
Eeny, meeny, mimey, mo.
Totally. So that's why it got to 240 pages, is because we couldn't stop coming up with puns. So, including the TV and film section that has Mimey Vice and Dirty Miming and Mimey Dearest, The Little Mermime. It goes on and on. It's ridiculous. And we have a Michael Jackson section that we call. That's where I pose in all of his iconic, moonwalk poses, leaning to the side from the Smooth Criminal video, the Bad cover, the Thriller cover. We reenact all that with me as a mime in the middle of it, and we call that section in Maimase, Maimasa, Mamakusa. See? So it's ridiculous, and it's so much fun with it. And there's even a 40-page flip book in the middle of it that shows me transforming from a lump on the ground into a mime leaning on a wall. So it's a little flip movie. Great fun. And this is available at your Amazon.com. If you're an online shopper, you go to Amazon.com and do a little search for Mime Very Own Book, is what it's called. Mime Very Own Book. And that's M-I-M-E. And you can also find it, if you're not an online shopper, you can go to your Barnes & Noble, and if they don't have it in stock, they can order it for you.
All right, go ahead and plug in your current films again, and any other websites that you'd like to plug in as well.
Yeah, well, I'm also currently working on a movie called Raze, R-A-Z-E, and that stars Zoe Bell, the action star, who was, from Death Proof as the girl who was on the hood of the car, and you also know her as the Uma Thurman stunt double from the Kill Bill movies, and or Xena, Princess Warrior stunt double from Xena all those years. So she's amazing. Zoe Bell's amazing. I worked with her on a little film called Angel of Death a while back, and now she came looking for me. She's producing and starring in a movie called Raze, and it's kind of like it's like a fight club for women, only they're there against their will. And that's where I come in. I'm the patriarch of this elite society that is kidnapping women, putting them into this prison sort of setting, and making them fight each other to the death. So there's your setup. It's ridiculous. And it really explores how much a woman will go to, what limits a woman will go to protect the ones she loves. So all these women are fighting to save the lives of their loved ones back home that we have also under surveillance. And if they don't fight, we'll kill them. So it's a really grisly setup, and a lot of action, a lot of great fight scenes. And the woman playing my wife in the movie, it's also like also in on this whole weird society of people, is Sherilyn Fenn, who played Audrey in the old Twin Peaks TV series. She is a classic beauty, an amazing actress. So great to work with her. So we're just filming now still. It's an indie project that Zoe is putting together with her other producers and whatnot. It's being directed by Josh Waller, and so hopefully they already got foreign distribution by a deal done at Cannes Film Festival, the Cannes Film Festival market this year. They put a trailer together, just a quick trailer together to show there, and they sold some foreign countries on it immediately, just on the premise alone. So, put a bunch of hot chicks, in a ring fighting each other to the death, and you're going to have an audience for that, I think. So, that's what I'm doing right now. And you can find me traveling around the country doing all kinds of comic book conventions and horror fan conventions, sci-fi conventions. I do appearances all the time, and I love those. And so that and whatever projects I'm working on in film and TV are all findable at my official website. And that website address is thedougjonesexperience.com. That's thedougjonesexperience.com. And once you get there, you can see buttons on the left side for Facebook and Twitter and all that. I love Twitter. On Twitter, I'm at Actor Doug Jones. So you can find me talking on the web all the time.
Well, there you go. Doug Jones. Doug Jones.
That's right. Thank you for having me.